Hello, everybody. It's Sulin here. I thought I'd do an intro video and just explain to you what I do and what my approach is. And I hope that you're enjoying the videos and the podcast as well. My podcast is called Well Woman, in terms of giving you some information on women's hormonal conditions and some of the underlying triggers and factors and accelerants involved in those conditions. So I'm a naturopath. When I studied naturopathy, I learned several different modalities. Of these, nutrition was one of them. So learning how to structure a diet to suit a person's individual constitution, but also how to use that diet as a way to relieve symptoms, reduce their frequency, and improve, health parameters. So things like if you're trying to fall pregnant, how would you improve your levels of, DHA, omegas, or how would you lift your levels of estrogen or progesterone, depending on what was happening internally for you. So nutrition has been a big part of how I work. And also, I grew up in Southeast Asia. So when I was quite young, it was part of, my upbringing to integrate medicine into food. The food is the source of health and wellness in these Asian cultures. If you think about traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, for example, there's a lot of integration in those systems between medicine and food. And in fact, food they look at in terms of, not just the taste, like tend to think about things as either being sweet or savory, sour or bitter, but in those sort of systems of healing and health, they would look at food as being more warming or more stimulating or more pungent, able to, even in some cases when we talk about salty food in Chinese herbal medicine, salty foods being able to break through barriers in the body. So I did train in naturopathy, but I already had this kind of sense that, nutrition should be a big part of how we heal. When I work with clients as well in clinic, the diet is something that we focus on quite a bit and consistently throughout the treatment period. So you never just get your treatment and then get told to take them and that's it. Usually there's some diet integration and daily practices as well. So I like to bring in those other systems of healing too. Now I also studied herbal medicine or botanical medicine, they call it in the US. Herbalism can be called as well. So this is a system of medicine that is truly a people's medicine. It is all plant-based and very sustainable in most cases. And in fact, in the developing world, it's the primary source of healthcare. So herbal medicine became my main thing. And what I also love about herbal medicine is the amount of research that exists on using herbal medicines for various types of conditions. You might have heard about studies on herbs like echinacea for reducing the severity and frequency of cold symptoms. You might have heard about the use of a herb for metabolic weight loss, metabolic sort of issues. Herbs like goat's brew or licorice or bitter melon. You might have heard about herbs like St. John's wort being used for mild to moderate depression and also being shown in studies to significantly reduce the amount of hot flashes and anxiety symptoms that can occur in perimenopause and menopause. So herbalism is a wonderful, growing and evolving system of medicine. Herbal medicine, it is the oldest system of medicine around. We know that from archaeological dig-ups of Neanderthal graves, there were herbs in the graves, there were herbs on the teeth, they were used in cooking, they were used as ornamentation. And in fact, we know from their usage of flowers that they had very much a beauty-focused approach to rituals and cooking. So they were very much about beauty and things, which is something that I never learned at school. Don't know about you, but I never learned that at school. So herbalism's been around the longest time ever. You can go back 5,000 years and you get the first scripts being written on herbal medicines and their usage in cuneiform on clay tablets. That's how old it is. So there's a lot of history with the herbs that we can use. And now what we're getting is this intersection with research and evidence-based, where we are, not me specifically, but researchers are proving the herbs and their uses. They're backing them up and supporting them. In some cases, they're saying, well, it can do that, but this can do that better. So it's just such a great area of growth, and there are a lot more opportunities for people like you and me to find natural remedies to support us, depending on what the symptoms are. So I'm a naturopath. In summary, I work primarily with herbal medicines, which is an evolving evidence-based system of medicine. In Australia, naturopaths, especially where I live, you can kind of turn around and every third person is a naturopath. There's a lot of us here, but we're very passionate about working with people on their health and wellness and empowering you to have the tools that you need and the medicines that you need that are natural, adverse effect free, natural medicines. And I will just kind of mention there also that not everything is completely safe, so you do need guidance in a lot of these things. And I work with women from puberty through to menopause. So the main types of clients that come through my doors in clinic that are kind of inspiring me to produce the Well Woman podcast or to write blog articles or produce videos for you all. Thank you to all these women who come in. So they are primarily from the mid to late 30s up through to the 50s. And initially when I started, they were a bit younger because I was younger, and we've grown up together, and they keep seeing me, they keep coming in, and I help them through each of their life phases, from having babies to now having teenagers, and sometimes I help teenagers as well. So that's my main client base. So any sort of hormonal conditions from puberty through to menopause. Now, one of the things that we often tend to think about hormones is that they are pretty, stuck as they are. We can't change them, we can't modulate them, we can't improve them, reduce them, that we have to just accept them as they are. And we've ended up with this scenario, particularly for women, and I know also for young girls, that we have terrible periods or terrible perimenopauses and terrible menopauses. And we think that, this is just something we have to live with. But the truth is that no, your body, through all of these symptoms that it's providing to you, is giving you very important messages about what's happening in your internal terrain. So this is what I call your hormonal landscape. And my belief, and what I've seen through my work over the last 2 decades, is that every woman has the power to transform that internal hormonal landscape, and we can create it. We can make sure that everything is in balance so that we don't get the very heavy bleeds with each cycle, and we don't get the period cramping, so that we don't get the irritability and hostility with perimenopause, so that we can reduce or even prevent hot flashes, night sweats, those vasomotor symptoms. And we know from research that there are a couple of symptoms that will persist for us through menopause that we probably will never be able to fix, and that will be things like vaginal dryness. Funny to say that on a YouTube video, but it's that urogenital symptom, sort of progression there that comes with aging. But the other things, the sleep problems, the mood changes, the painful periods, the sore breasts, tender nipples, the sugar cravings, fatigue or chronic fatigue, these are all manageable. You just have to know what's happening with the hormones on the inside. And the hormones, by the way, we tend to think they're just estrogen and testosterone, but we've got progesterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone. We have leptin, ghrelin, gastrin, we have insulin. There are hormones covering your body, traversing you from tip to bottom, right? And so tip to toe, moving through your bloodstream, informing your organs, tissues, and cells what to do, how to work, and how to behave. And these hormones are designed to be very alert and very responsive. So whatever is happening in your world, around you and internally, that's all going to have an effect on your hormones. Therefore, your hormones are not static. You can change them, you can modulate them and improve them. It's just a matter of working out what are the triggers to those hormonal imbalances. And that's where someone like me comes in and can work with you naturally on this. It doesn't have to be a laborious or scary or intimidating process at all. So what happens with the consultations, if you come in and you sit down with me, the first consultation can be done via Zoom. So, wherever you are in the world, I can still do a consultation with you. I have clients all over the world. And it takes about an hour for that first consultation. We go through things in depth. This is partly me screening to see what we need to look out for. For example, are there issues with metabolic health? Are there issues with thyroid health? What's happening in terms of cognition and brain chemistry function? What's happening with those more naturopathic pillars of health, hydration levels, adequate sleep, eating the right food for you, and a daily practice of some sort of mindfulness practice every day, which can be as simple as alternate nostril breathing, or even just sitting in silence for 10 minutes a couple of times a day. So I'm screening to work out what we need to work on. And then over the course of the follow-up sessions, which usually roll out, one a month, just to keep it consistent and to keep the progress levels steady, we will go through all of those and we'll hit all of our landmarks, hopefully. That's the idea behind it. So yeah, that's kind of what I do and how it works in terms of consultations. So now would be a good time to mention a few things to you. You can touch base with me either by emailing me. I'm going to put all my contact details below here. You can email me. You can even jump straight onto my website and book your consultation in. If you're a little bit unsure about what naturopathy is, or even if it's perfect for you, we can talk, we can communicate beforehand. So pop me a message, even pop me an Instagram message. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. It's really not hard to find me, and all the links will be below. So you choose what works for you. Reach out and let me know what you'd like to work on, and I can even give you an idea of what it's going to be like for you. When should we do the first session? Should we do any of the other tests beforehand? I often do have a couple of really easy appraisals that I get my clients to do before they come in. And what I'll do is I'll email them out, and you just fill in the form, hit send, and then the results come straight to me. And then we can talk about them during the consultation. So there's a little bit of screening already that I can do for you before we even sit down. And throughout the process, if we need to have some lab tests done, I can arrange that for you. I can also tell you what needs to be tested if you are in Australia and you're going to see your doctor and get your tests Medicare rebated. I can tell you what would be good things to test. So I'm with you to support you and guide you all the way. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I have a podcast called Well Woman. And on this podcast is a lot of my research, that I've been doing, and it's a fairly new podcast. Please jump on and support me in this. Even, just give it a go and see if you enjoy listening to this information on women's hormonal health as you're driving your car or walking on the beach or just hanging out by the pool, whatever it is that you like to do in your spare time. I'm a big podcast listener, so I really love the medium because I can take things in verbally. So if that works for you, fantastic. Please check out my podcast. And you can follow me here on YouTube as well for upcoming videos. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day. And hopefully I'll get to meet you soon if I haven't already.